So attitude, effort, and discipline, right? This is something I got from one of our very good friends. They coach a women's college tennis team, and they used to. I remember when I first met them, they told me about just what they teach their team and what they are constantly preaching and how they live their life, really. And their thing was, attitude, effort, and sportsmanship. That no matter what the circumstance is, you can control those three things, right? And to me, it's that really stuck with me. So this is something that I carry every day in my life too. And my wife and I went on a missions trip to Haiti, and we would had a chance to speak to the students. These kids are anywhere between 12 to like 25 years old, right? So we'd speak to different groups every day. And one message that like really hit home that a lot of the kids were like leaning into was that, because a lot of these kids are living in very like poor conditions. They have like one meal a day at school, and that might be their whole meal for the whole week. And that meal itself is literally a bowl of rice and beans, and that's it. Every single day. And some days with the organization, they can't even feed all the kids. They can't feed the kids, so sometimes they don't feed them. And that's another project that I will put information in this link so you guys can be aware of it. My wife and I are working on programs to raise $50,000 every year to help feed them. But I leaned in and I was telling them about these three things, right? And these three things are attitude, effort, and our version, discipline, right? So the first one, attitude being like, what's the correct attitude, right? So when you have these three things that you control, you have to ask yourself, what type of attitude, what type of effort, what type of discipline do I need, right? Because everybody has an attitude. Is just, is it serving you well? Everybody puts in some kind of effort, but how much effort, or what's the lack of effort? Like these things matter. Same thing with your discipline. What are your discipline? What are your habits, right? And attitude, first one that I go into is we talk about the Bible verse, Proverbs 3:5, where it tells you, lean not into your own understanding, but trust in the Lord, depend on the Lord. And the attitude that we're trying to instill and remind ourselves and others is the attitude of, hey, it's not just about my intelligence or my strength or what I can do. It's not all in my hands. My attitude is my faith. What I live by, how I go by. My faith is what gives me confidence. My faith is what carries me, right? And with that, it forces me to have an attitude of openness, an attitude of growth, of looking for an answer, knowing that, hey, I can't do it by myself, and I have to be humble enough to ask for help. I have to be flexible enough to move in certain ways and look beyond myself and trust in more than myself. And it's not all in my hands, but it's all in my faith. My faith is what guides me and what helps me grow and what actually gives me access to other things. A lot of times we fall into this thought of thinking that, I'm successful because of my systems or my schedule or my rituals or my habits or all these right? We call it the I disease. It's all about what I do and how I can do it, and this like individualistic world that we live in, we end up hurting ourselves and others because we're just focused on I, right? And we don't see past all of that, right? So the biggest thing that we want to remember and like instill in ourselves is our attitude. And our attitude is rooted in the Word of God and the faith that He instills in me. And that's my confidence. That's what I rely on. I don't rely on my own judgment. I don't rely on my own ability, because time and time again, I've failed at that. I've failed at holding myself up to that, right? And the only thing that's constant is going to be my God and my faith. That's why it's important to have that attitude and help that fuel you. Now, the challenge with that is that in order to have an attitude of openness or an attitude of growth and attitude of like bringing things together and looking beyond ourselves, it does require effort. You know, it's not something that comes naturally. It's something that you have to be intentional about and cultivating and pushing and practicing, right? So that leads us to part number 2, which just reminds us about our effort, right? My effort is really just my intention, how much I try, right? And it's attitude and effort, because it's going to take effort to correct my attitude. It's going to take effort to know that, hey, I can't dictate, how the weather's going to be. I can't dictate how this person's going to respond, whatever it is, but I'm going to put in the effort to make this the best I can, right? I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if the timing's correct. I don't know, the circumstances, a situation like that, but I do know that I have the power and the responsibility to bring my best effort, right? So you ask yourself, what is your effort saying about you, right? My wife always talks about like, your habits and how like the habit of not doing something is a habit as well, right? So whatever you are doing or whatever you're not doing, you are ingraining that in your system, in yourself. And it's kind of reminding yourself like, hey, what does my effort say about me, right? What does my attitude say about me? And I can focus on those things, and that's what I'm going to focus on. I can't focus on how this person's going to interpret it. I can't focus on these other opinions. I can't focus on the actual results or whatever it is. What I could focus on is what I have full control in, which is my attitude and my effort towards this thing. And that, reminds me of like, hey, we can all try once. We can always, perform at a high level once or a short term, but how do you do that over time? How do you consistently, produce at a high level? Or how do you consistently apply your faith? How do you consistently love people? Even when you're mad, even when you're tired, how do you do that consistently? Well, the answer takes us to the third part, which is discipline. And with discipline, I love it because the Bible, throughout the whole Bible, that's really what the story is. Like, God's trying to teach you, Jesus trying to teach you, like, in order for you to like reach your full potential or for you to serve the purpose that God put you here for, you have to be disciplined, and there are many scriptures throughout the Bible that tell you this, and it's just reminding you that there's really nothing great that you can accomplish without discipline. The discipline of praying before I step into something, the discipline of making my bed every morning, the discipline of, acknowledging people or respecting people's feelings, the discipline of just growth and the discipline of love, right? It's not something that you just, wake up and do. You have to be intentional, and it's mundane, right? But there's power in those mundane situations, right? And God gives you that opportunity to step in there and really lean in and master your disciplines. With that, you grow. So, some verses that we spoke about or we lean into in Isaiah 119, he talks about if you're willing and obedient, you shall eat the good of the land, right? Like, these are the words of God. This is not my opinion. This is not like theory. He's literally telling you, if you're willing and obedient, you shall eat the good of the land, right? And in French, in translation, they use the word docile, which means like to submit or submission, right? Meaning if you're willing and obedient and you submit to authority, meaning you submit to God, that's what's going to guide you. That's what's going to help bless you, right? Because, hey, you're disciplined enough to take instructions, to take feedback, to apply it, to understand the power that you have and the respect that's due that you have to give and what you need to give, right? So there's power in that, and it's just remembering these things, right? It also says in Proverbs 1:13 that poverty and disgrace come to him who ignores instruction, but whoever heeds reproof is honored. So it's literally telling you the same thing. Like, hey, disgrace, poverty, it's going to come to you if you're disobeying things because you think, hey, it's my way. It's all about what I do. There goes the I disease again, right? It's about what pleases me and what I want and how I feel. But it's like, no, we always talk about, my wife and I, standards over feelings. I don't act a certain way because I feel this way, right? I don't speak this certain way because I feel like doing this. No, my standards, my values hold me accountable and responsible to execute a certain way, right? And that goes into like my faith. My standards, my values, my faith come from these instructions. So I have to remember that. I have to apply that. And that's what's going to keep me going there, right? And one thing we also talk about is, what you tolerate, you promote, right? So meaning what you're tolerating, you're encouraging, right? If I'm tolerating someone to, speak a certain way, or act a certain way, or respond a certain way, even if I omit to say something to it, I'm encouraging them to continue that way, right? So it's knowing that, no, this is what I stand for. These are my standards. This is my value. So this is how I respond. I don't need to think or process or wait, let me see the circumstance. Maybe in this situation I do this. No. That's the beauty of it, right? I always talk about life is not always black and white. It's not really that simple where it's just like, don't do this, do this, right? No, it's not. However, those circumstances still can't dictate your actions, right? I make my decisions in each circumstance based on my values and my standards, right? And the challenge, the art, the beauty in it is that I have the ability to clarify what those values and those standards are. So whatever the circumstance is, I can apply that same concrete thing here, right? The circumstances change, the seasons change, the moment changes, but these standards, these values can be applied to each one. These words, these Bible verses can be applied to each and every season or circumstance, no matter what it is. And that's the same thing with these three things to recenter me and go, right? The season's going to change, the moment's going to change, the circumstances changes, the people change, right? But I always, in all of those situations, seasons, places, I always have full control of my attitude, my effort, and my discipline. And that's what I wish for you. I wish for you to remember that it's all about your attitude, your effort, and your discipline in whatever area you choose to go. So wherever you go, I pray you align yourself to your values and your standards and the word for that. And you're able to fully control and apply a great attitude, great effort, and great discipline to your life. All right. Love you guys.